When you feel trusted and when you extend trust to others, it's kind of like this, almost like a peace offering between two humans where you're like, hey, I trust you. Can you trust me too? And when that comes together, both of you can move quicker in the same direction versus a lack of trust.
Welcome to the Construction Leading Edge podcast from constructionleadingedge.com. My name is Todd Dawalt. That's spelled D-A-W-A-L-T. I'm your host, and here at Construction Leading Edge, we're all about helping construction business owners have more freedom, more impact, and more wealth by systematizing your construction business. Think self-managing company, a business that runs without you. So in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to empower your team. And this is for you if you've ever said or thought some of these things. How do I get my people to take more ownership? How do I get my people to act like owners? How do I get them to be more accountable, to be more results oriented? You know, it's probably easier if I just do it myself. I'm not very good at delegating. How can I let go? So if those are some of the things you've ever heard yourself say or think, or if you want to learn how to empower your team, then that's what we're going to talk about today. And I'm joined by the illustrious Construction Leading Edge team. We have Leyah Hostetter, our Director of Customer Success. Leyah, how's it going today?
Hello, doing well, thank you.
We also have Monish Khadye, all the way from Australia, who's the leader of our CEO Alliance program, rocking the Hawaiian shirt today. Also, Leyah clearly didn't get the memo, but that's okay. Monish, how's it going?
Yeah, it's good. It's almost summer here. And yeah, so I have to break out the tropical vibes.
Here's what we want to talk about. Some of the questions that we hear. I'll just restate a few of these things. This is what we hear from a lot of the construction business owners that we work with. They say things like, how do I get my team to take more ownership? How do I get them to be more accountable? How do I get them to be more results oriented? Maybe in general, how do I get my team to do stuff without me having to tell them every little move to make and then quadruple checking them and then ending up doing a lot of the work myself? I've heard things like, I feel like I have to tell my people every move to make, and then I have to stand there and look over their shoulder and then correct their mistakes. If you're not good at delegating, there are a lot of people who struggle to let go. Like, how can I possibly let go? I've been burned in the past. And if I'm afraid if I let go of control, then things are just going to fall apart. The wheels will fall off. And then there are some people who have delegated pretty well to their leadership team, but their leadership team is holding on to control and they're not empowering the people below them on their team. So let's talk about what it looks like. Let's take people up to the top of the mountain and paint the picture of what it looks like when a construction team is empowered and accountable. We want to talk about what does it look like? What does it feel like? What does it look like in the field? What does it look like in the office? Let's start with that. So Monish, in your experience, what does it look like when a team is empowered and accountable?
It makes the business a lot more autonomous because you've got a bunch of people winning in whatever their respective roles are. And so it ends up with the opposite of what is most normal construction businesses, especially small businesses where usually one or two individuals, usually the owner, are the bottlenecks, right? So it's the polar opposite of that, where you've got multiple people responsible or accountable for multiple different sections of the business working in harmony together and handing off from one department to the other and actually executing whatever their individual task may be.
You did quite a bit of work with the field staff in your company, empowering them. Are they more productive, less productive? Are they happier? Is morale lower? Are they more efficient, less efficient when they're empowered? What results did you see from the field when you empowered your team and delegated to them effectively?
I think there's a common misconception that your field crew isn't that interested or motivated in doing anything other than showing up for their 8 hours and going home, right? And just framing a bit of wall and being told what they need to do in the next hour or the next 4 hours. However, I found that was really coming down to me as the owner of the business, unfortunately, setting it up like that. My guys actually, they're just human beings, right? Like they want to be like anyone else, where they want to succeed in their own roles. They want to grow as individuals. They want a sense of satisfaction or success at the end of every day. But because I had put myself in the position where I was basically dictating what needs to be done next and doing everything for them in that regard, I was essentially robbing them of having the opportunity of doing those things themselves. And so when we switched it across to them actually having more control over the 2-week look ahead, over the daily crew planners and things like that, and them coming to me with, hey, we've got a problem. These are my 2 or 3 solutions that I've come up with. Which one do you think is best? And me going, well, I'll trust your judgment. Whatever you think's best, go ahead and do it. And we can deal with what happens after that. I saw morale increase quite substantially after that. And we've seen that with plenty of our clients that have gone through as well. And the professional relationships improved substantially as well, because people felt that they were trusted, they were valued, and that they were actually bringing something to the business other than them just showing up for the 8 hours.
We just had a group call just before this. We had a SYCB group call just before recording this. And Alex Thompson is a CEO Alliance member, and he was a guest coach. And he said that what he found was, he said, my team was starving for this. They were starving to be empowered and to be trusted. So some people are concerned, well, if I empower my people and I let them go, mistakes will go up, quality will go down. What did you find when it came to quality, Monish?
Quality went up quite substantially. And it was sort of like a snowball effect, because what it did, in essence, was build up the confidence of my team in themselves, in their own abilities. They didn't have to be told, they didn't have to be drones. They could think for themselves because they had the opportunity to do that. Again, I wasn't taking that away from them. And so not only did quality increase, but I guess the biggest change was there was just a lot less fires to put out, a lot less phone calls I was getting about what to do next, or this has happened, what are you going to do about it, sort of thing. And it was a bit of a hit to my ego to begin with, because it started feeling like I wasn't as important as I thought I was, or as necessary as I thought it was. And that took a while getting used to. I think Alex Thompson said something similar. Most of our guys that, have set it up correctly have said similar things. Like, you end up having to figure out now, where do you belong in that system, because you've worked yourself out of it. And turns out certain things that other people are much better at doing than you ever did.
Leyah, what do you think? What does it look like when a team is empowered? Maybe there are some things you've experienced personally, or even some client results. What do you think?
I just wanted to actually point out a couple of words that Monish said that I think are so important to having this level of empowerment and having a team that works well. You use the word harmony, which I love that word over balance, because balance implies that everything is equally balanced, right? There's an equality about it, but that isn't reality. There's going to be parts of our business where sometimes one person is holding a little bit more of a load versus another person on your team, but it's all about the harmony of that and being able to work together to be able to find that outcome that everyone's working towards, which can't happen if one person is dictating what needs to happen, right? Everyone has to kind of figure out where their space is, figure out their strengths, and have the autonomy to do that. So that was one thing you pointed out. I'm going to get to your response, Todd. I just wanted to point these things out. Another word is trust. And I know I'll probably talk about that a lot on this podcast today, because I think that is so foundational to good leadership and to a solid team. With trust, you move quick. And without trust, you move really slow, and things just don't work as well. An example from my past, being in a corporate role when I was working for Pulte Homes in Las Vegas, we were empowered a lot to make many decisions. They gave us a threshold of a dollar amount that we could make decisions based on anything below that dollar amount. So I could go out and I could be empowered, meeting with a homeowner, working through a challenge with them, and I could make a decision right then because I had that empowerment. I was trusted to do it. The homeowner was taken care of. I looked like a hero. The company looked like a hero, and it was done quickly versus me having to go back and check through multiple channels to say, hey, can I do this thing? And I was also empowered to do the right thing. And I think that also, it opened up a lot of pride for me because I tried to do things with integrity personally anyways. And then I worked for a company that believed in doing the right thing. And so that empowered me to be able to step in and do some of these things that otherwise I've also worked for some companies that did not have that focus, and it slows things down and your customer experience is really poor. I didn't enjoy working in that company. My trades didn't enjoy it. It just, everything gets halted and everything is now icky, for lack of a better word. It's just not, it doesn't feel good. No one likes it. And it's not enjoyable versus the opposite.
Why does trust speed things up? What does that do for humans to feel trusted?
Oh, goodness. I think everyone can relate to that. When you feel trusted and when you extend trust to others, it's kind of like this, almost like a peace offering between two humans where you're like, hey, I trust you. Can you trust me too? And when that comes together, both of you can move quicker in the same direction versus a lack of trust. We're human, right? So we're going to make some mistakes. And I know I reference this a lot, but there's a book called Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey. And the basic idea here is trust is like a bank account. We're either putting deposits into our trust account with others or we're pulling away from it. Because we're human, we're going to take withdrawals from a trust account with our relationships. But the more deposits you put in, the easier it is to overcome some of those withdrawals. So if you have a super high trust relationship with someone, things just move quick. You don't have to double check. You don't have to wonder, are they being honest with me? Do I need to cover my A, for lack of a better term? There's a lot of things that can become a challenge when trust is low. And when trust is high, it just moves quick. And I'm sure every single one of us can consider a relationship in our lives, whether this is a personal relationship or a business relationship, where we have high trust. It's just easy. It moves quickly and it's enjoyable. Now think of a relationship that maybe has low trust. It does not move easy. It is not quick. It's not enjoyable. You're constantly having to check things and constantly having to do extra work that maybe you wouldn't do otherwise.
A lot of friction. And I'm thinking about in a low trust environment, when someone tells you something, you don't necessarily take it at face value. You are like second guessing, you're questioning, you're wondering, like, I don't know, are they going to actually do this? What are they really trying to accomplish? Are they trying to get one over on me? And everything, that's why it's so slow, because there's a lot of deliberation on the front end, and then there's a lot of double checking and quadruple checking. And yeah, so for those of you listening to this thinking, well, I've never worked for a boss. I've never worked for anybody else. I've always worked for myself. Think about a client you worked with who extended trust to you, a high trust client. They trusted you to do the right thing. They paid you quickly. They told you, I trust you. And then think about the client who was a low trust client. Which of those clients do you want to be for your employees and your team members? So yeah, the talk, you gave a great talk in San Diego on the speed of trust at one of our live events. And it was pretty eye-opening to think about, like, oh, trust is something that you can extend, and it's something kind of tangible, and you can be really intentional about that trust. What I found is that, according to psychologists, trust is one of the biggest motivators of humans. Maybe the top two motivators of humans are feeling trusted and having autonomy, having control over our day-to-day lives. And when people feel trusted and have autonomy, we're highly motivated. But when you take away that trust and you take away that autonomy, then that motivation goes down. So whenever I talk about empowering people, I always talk about, in World War II, there was a distinct contrast in leadership approaches on D-Day, the Allied invasion of Normandy, June 6, 1944. The Allied forces were all about empowering the NCOs and the officers on the beach to make their own decisions. They had a flexible framework that they were trying to achieve. They believed in empowered execution, pushing decision-making and planning to the people closest to the problems. Meanwhile, the Nazis had a very different approach. They were more of a command and control or centralized command. So information was run up the flagpole and then commands came down. So in this case, Adolf Hitler was in control on this day, and everything had to go through him. And there were these divisions of panzer tanks sitting there, idling, waiting, and they could have turned the tide on that day, could have changed the outcome, but Hitler was asleep and his aides were too afraid to wake him up, and he was the only one who could give the order to do that. So because of empowered execution, the Allied invasion went the way it was. So think about this. Are you more about empowered execution, or are you more about centralized command, where every information goes up to you and then orders go back out to you? And that's, I think there's a, well, I don't think, what I found is there's a misconception that he or she who's higher on the organizational chart is better equipped to make decisions. But the reality is he or she who's closest to the problem is actually best equipped to plan and make decisions. And that's what we're talking about with empowering your people. So that's what it looks like. Your people are trusted. They're more productive. It's safe to say that people who are empowered are more likely to stick around.
It's important to acknowledge that it's not just about trusting someone or empowering them without providing them with the means, the resources, and more importantly, the parameters or the boundaries as well.
The expectations.
Like, people that are listening to this, don't just be like, guys, just do whatever you want and I trust you and hope that it's going to go well, because it probably isn't. So don't do that right away. But you want to set that individual up and you want to make your expectations quite clear to them, right? So this is how I expect the outcome to be. How you get there is up to you. But because I don't want people contacting and say, hey, I trusted my guy to do this thing. Now I've got a $10,000 bill because he just said, yep, this was the best solution. He's gone and done that. So you want to establish those parameters, and it's not just about trusting people. It's about letting them know what you're trusting them with. What powers do they have, and where are the limitations? Because there's, unfortunately, as a business owner, there is going to be some stuff that just you're going to have to deal with. If you're the nominated licensee for the business, if you're the guy that has to go to court, that's who you are, unfortunately, right? So there's certain decisions that will come back to you, and it's just about clarifying. Like I said, again, the important word is the parameters. What parameters can your employees be empowered within?
Listen to the rest of the episode. Don't just stop right here and just go willy-nilly and start trusting people. Definitely. That would not be wise. Here's what I've seen. Mistakes go down, productivity goes up, employee retention goes up, morale goes up, quality goes up, customer satisfaction goes up because they're dealing with and interacting with happier people on the job site. Projects get done faster, therefore profits go up. So it's all positive. There is a very strong business case for empowering your people. So next, we're going to get into some of the problems that are preventing people from empowering their people. Then we'll get into some practical strategies on how to set those parameters. But first, let's talk about what are some of the bullshit reasons people believe why empowerment doesn't work or why they can't delegate. What are the myths? What are the stories they're telling themselves that they may believe to be true? And it's actually holding them back. And it makes me think of there's a quote from Mark Twain who said, "It's not what you don't know that hurts you. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so." And I think there's a lot of stuff out there that people just know for sure about these kids, these millennials or whatever. They don't want to work. They believe some myths. But what are some bullshit reasons that you've run across, Monish, that are preventing people from letting go and empowering their team?
Well, I've had that exact one. Millennials aren't kids anymore. I'm a millennial. All right. So I've definitely had that early on in my career where people were just simply like, no, you're too young. You don't know what you're talking about. Even though it doesn't matter if you're young, like you've got a solution, you've got a solution. I think it just comes down to, like you were saying, those preset notions that people have in their head where it's like, yeah, I can't trust this person yet because they're not experienced enough. They haven't been with the company long enough. I haven't seen them perform enough. And I'm the best. I've always done this myself. So I can't trust the other person to do it as well as I can. But secretly being worried about the other person doing it better than what you've done yourself and things like that. So it's the preset notions that, again, the ego. It's like, yeah, it's just all me. And, you have to either be me. And the number of times I bet a lot of our listeners have said, if I could just clone myself, if I could just have multiple copies of myself, my business would run so much better. It comes down to you kind of thinking you're the best at it. You're the only one who can do it and blah, 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 blah. No one else fits that mold. But, there's people I think inside the box, outside the box. Everyone has their own different box. And it's about acknowledging that different perspectives are actually better. If I'm looking at a problem, I can think of a solution. Someone else is looking at it from their perspective and probably coming up with a different solution entirely, right? Like I think I'm going to butcher this phrase, but it's when you've got 10 different people looking at an elephant, they're seeing a completely different view. I don't know what problem an elephant has to solve, but it basically paints the picture of the different perspectives.
Let's dig into a couple of things you said. I'm the only one who can do this. I'm the best. And here's one, there's a sacred cow with a lot of construction business owners, especially home builders, remodelers, smaller businesses. They're like, I'm the only one, I'm the face of the company. And I have to do selling. I have to do all of the selling. Everybody wants to work with me. They need to talk to me in order to move forward. Let's dig into this a little bit because this is something people believe. It's not like they're questioning, I wonder if my team, if somebody else could do selling for me. They just believe they're the only ones who can do it. So let's barbecue that sacred cow just a little bit. Leyah, what do you think is behind that belief that I'm the only one who can sell?
Monish mentioned ego. I think ego's definitely behind that a little bit. And for a lot of our clients, they built this from the ground up, right? This business is their baby. And the reality is no one's going to care about your business as much as you do, but you do have competent people who you can bring in, right? And I think this is really at the core of it, it's fear. Who else could do it as good as me? Who else is going to care about this as much as me? I'm the face of the company. I'm the one that people are actually want to talk to, and they're buying with us because of me. So I think there's this mix of like ego and fear wrapped up together. I really think that's what it boils down to in many, many cases when we're talking this kind of a situation with our clients.
Hey, it's Todd here, and I want to tell you about something new that we've launched recently. If you like this podcast and you'd like to connect with other like-minded construction business owners who listen to it so you can share ideas and share resources and best practices and network, if you'd like some access to exclusive content like Q&A calls and trainings from our team here, then you may want to go check out the Construction Leading Edge online community. It's brand new. This group is exclusively for construction business owners who want a profitable, self-managing business so they can have more time with their family, more profit, and more peace of mind. So if you're into leveling up as a construction entrepreneur, if you want to have more impact, if you're into creating wealth and personal development, then this is the place for you. Head over to constructionleadingedge.com/join, JOIN, to get all the details on the Construction Leading Edge community. That's constructionleadingedge.com/join. And I'll see you on the inside. Now, let's get back to the episode. There's a belief that nobody's going to care as much as the owner does. And Monish, what do you think about that? Is it possible that employees care more about the business they work at than owners think they do?
I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I've been on the other side of that equation as a business owner, and I've been burnt by employees. that I did trust. Okay. So most of these ideas that, I can't trust employees or employees never care as much or whatever have come, unfortunately, due to negative experiences, right? And it's usually a number of those negative experiences. And sometimes you've done the best you could and you've still been screwed over by someone. It's about probably accepting that that's inevitable. That is going to happen every now and then. But looking at, all right, we dealt with it and we moved on, right? Like when that happened to me, I went back to my hiring process and I was like, all right, I need to make sure I capture these red flags so that it's not about me trusting that individual or not. It's about me figuring out that I probably can't trust that individual with this, so I shouldn't hire them to begin with, right? So it's about going back on the drawing board with that. But then when you do hire, when you do trust, majority of the people will probably surprise you in a positive way. And it was based on what we were saying before. It's sort of like children, right? Like if you trust them and if you teach them to do what needs to be done and then you trust them to do it, they'll pleasantly surprise you. Like kids aren't dumb. Sometimes they are, but they're not out there to just make your life worse, although it may sometimes seem like that. And it's, I use that analogy with, like, I used to be commercial PM and I've always kind of said all of my field guys, my trade partners, I just treat them like toddlers. And sometimes it's just easier to think of it that way. It's about just teaching them, trusting them, guiding them, and helping them get to work themselves up to where they want. And the most crucial thing there to understand is when you start trusting them, you actually start helping them build their own self-esteem, self-confidence, which you never know may have been shattered due to a previous employer. I've seen that with the pre-construction manager we hired, and you actually spoke to her as well, Todd, and she shared her experiences with you. And so my pre-construction manager had been with a previous company for 3 years, and her boss was an incredible micromanager, narcissist, and she would call her when Rach would go to the toilet to say, "What are you doing?" And that sort of level. So it was very bad. So when she came over to me, and I'm just like, "Here you go, you deal with this now. I'm not interfering." She was actually uncertain. She's like, she thought she might be doing something wrong simply because I'm not checking in. So it was actually making her more self-conscious that I wasn't harassing her or abusing her like her previous boss was, right? It's sort of like the, what's that movie? The Shawshank Redemption, where you kind of get institutionalized and you're used to that. But understanding that something has happened to your employees in the past as well, right? Like that's why their confidence is low. You help them build up that confidence by trusting them. And over time, like, they become happier. They continue to do the right things. They then teach the rest of the team to do the same, and the next people you hire, and so forth.
I like what Monish was saying about being pleasantly surprised, because, if you go back to that common challenge of fear, a lot of us have these what if questions that we're constantly asking, right? What if this happens? What if that happens? And most of the time, those questions internally, they're not like positive options, right? What if this employee screws me over? What if this person steals from me? What if this? What if that? What if you flip that what if question to something positive? What if this employee blows my socks off and they're the most amazing person I've ever come across? What if this? What if that? So I think there's a lot to be said about how you can view this. I like what you said earlier, Monish, about looking at the elephant and everyone seeing it differently. We all come with something. And if we are able to view it from more of an optimistic lens, I think we can be surprised in a positive way versus a negative.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has ever been awakened at 2:00 in the morning and thinking, what if this person is a rock star? What if they just blow me away? No, it's usually fear. And we've gone through this exercise at a couple of our live meetups and talked about, all right, what's the real problem here when it comes to hiring and retaining employees? And after a few minutes, it became very clear the number one problem was fear. What if I hire somebody and they become a competitor? What if they steal all of my intellectual property? What if they steal money from me? What if all of these bad things that happen? And none of these things, the only place those situations exist is in your brain. Complete speculation, and it keeps people paralyzed. So it's fear. I would make the case that the number one thing that keeps people from delegating is fear. What if, because as long as you're holding on to control, it's known. Whatever problems you're dealing with, it's known. But we are so afraid of the unknown, of what might happen, that we will just continue to do something painful and uncomfortable for one more day rather than let go of control because of fear of the unknown. Yeah. Some of the bullshit reasons people are believing are, I'm the only, I'm the best. Some of you may be, I've heard it said that self-awareness is like hugging a porcupine, and the closer you get, the more uncomfortable it becomes. So some of you may be really uncomfortable right now, realizing, oh, I'm the problem here. But the good news is, if you're the problem, you're the solution. So identify your bullshit reasons. It's not out there. And Monish, you brought up a good point. Maybe you had a bad experience. You had a bad hire, but that one person that you had a bad experience with does not mean everybody else is bad. You can't blame everybody else. The solution is the process, and we'll talk about that in just a second. So let's talk about some of the real problems, maybe some of the hidden problems that need to be solved. I've heard us say a few things. If you want to be able to empower your team, if you want to be able to delegate properly, number one, it starts with the leader, right? You have to get your mindset right. You have to change the way you think. Starts with the leader. I also heard that some of the real problems are hiring the wrong people. If you hire the wrong people from the beginning, then it's not going to work. If they're the wrong person, then no matter what you do, it's not going to work. So hiring the wrong people means you have a bad hiring process. That could be the real problem. What are some other real problems that people should be focusing on that are keeping them from empowering their team and delegating? What do you think, Leyah?
We touched on this earlier, but unclear expectations. How does your team know what it is that you want them to be doing if you're not communicating that? I think that has to be very clear, and it has to be consistent. So this is something that, as a leader, you get to really determine what that is. Like, what are your expectations, not only of an individual and an individual's role, but this is a bigger conversation about like the vision and the expectations for your company. Do you know what that is? It's a little bit hard to communicate that if you don't actually have that in place and you don't know what that is, to be able to communicate that. But it's very difficult to have someone hit a target that they have no idea is there. So having very clear expectations, I think, is key here.
You mentioned vision, Leyah. How does that tie into it? Why is it important that your team understand the vision?
Everyone wants to have a purpose. They want to have meaning behind what they're doing. Most of us spend more time at work than we do with our loved ones, than we do enjoying some of the things that we like in our lives. So why are we doing it? People want to have a purpose. They want to have a meaning. And so as a leader, if you can communicate that vision, if you can help them understand the why, that they can then grab onto and make it their own, it makes it so much easier. I think it's kind of like like a wheel with spokes. There's a lot of different components to this. But I think at the core, having solid trust and then being able to communicate some of those things so people know a purpose behind what they're doing. That's really important.
You mentioned trust. I think one of the real problems is a low trust environment. If you have created, or if you're operating in a low trust environment, delegation is very difficult. Empowerment is very difficult. Yeah. So unclear expectations, absolutely. Lack of vision. People don't understand, why am I doing this? If they don't understand what winning looks like, they don't know where the goalposts are. They don't even know what game they're playing sometimes. I believe, Leyah, you interviewed a young lady a year or two ago from a client we were working with, and she'd been with the company for 3 or 4 months, and she told you, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you remember that?
I do. Yep. She didn't know her title. And she had no idea what her job was, that's extremely frustrating for someone to show up every day. Like, I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing.
That is an extremely high speed trust thing going on there. Yeah, just come start your job. We'll let you know later on what that is.
Yeah, and I think in that case, it was kind of a moving target. It's like, hey, come in here and help with this. And then, ooh, maybe you can do this. And then you can help with marketing. And, let's have you do permits. And let's have you, and this wasn't like you reading between the lines. I read the transcript, I think. And she said, I have no idea what I was hired for and what I'm supposed to be doing. So, Monish, what do you think? What are a few other real problems that need to be solved in order to empower a team?
I can pretty much guarantee everyone listening to this has made at least one bad hire throughout their business. They've had at least one bad client. It just happens. Like if you're listening to this and going, no, I've never made any bad hires. I've never done anything wrong. I don't know why you listen to the podcast, to be honest. So you should probably just start your own. But it's when it comes to that sort of thing, like those sort of fears, take the same approach as you would with health and safety on the job, right? Like it's about mitigating risks, eliminate hazards, mitigate risks. So a good example is people are afraid to hire a bookkeeper or a CPA or someone to control the finances in the business. So they get stuck with doing all the billing, everything's behind. They're spending hours doing these administrative tasks, which it's a complete waste of their time. Like they shouldn't be doing it because they've heard that someone somewhere was defrauded by a bookkeeper or an accountant or something like that, right? So in those sort of situations, they're just going, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go down that route at all because that may happen to me. I'm just going to do everything myself. Now, you don't have to do that. You can find a happy medium where you're delegating the majority of it and there's some sort of backstop. There's something where you're reviewing it so that, you can kind of make sure that you're mitigating the risk or managing the risk as much as you possibly can whilst not being stuck doing all the tasks yourself. And again, as time goes on and you trust the other individual, you may not need to do that anymore. And the only way to find out whether you trust someone is by beginning to trust them, letting them have a go and seeing how that works. But, if that's something that you need to have in place for you to be able to empower your team, you need to do that. You need to have a backstop. You need to have a contingency. You need to have some sort of format where either you or someone else that you trust is reviewing other people. A good example is Michael Moore. That's one of our CEO Alliance candidates. He had his chief operations, Stephen Napoli, come down to one of our live events. And Stephen is Michael's integrator. And Stephen now holds the rest of the team accountable. And Michael, was trusting him to do his job. And now his job is to making sure everyone else is doing theirs. But that removes Michael from having to make sure that the rest of the things perform. And they've had phenomenal growth, partly because they're able to do that. They're able to delegate effectively, trust effectively. The job gets done.
If you want to call it lack of trust, I don't even think it's intentionally a lack of trust. So as I speak with some of my clients, they've unintentionally started to create this culture where everyone has to come in and check with them, right? It wasn't because they didn't necessarily trust someone. It's just kind of how it happened. And now that's what everyone expects. So now they're trying to shift things to be like, I want to empower my team more. Like, how do I do that? And to Monish's point, you got to start giving that grace out. You got to start trusting that they're going to do that and saying, hey, I hired you to do this. I know you can do this. What do you think we should do? And that will take some time. Like, this isn't an overnight thing to just be like, hey, I got you. Like, I trust you. Go do it. Sometimes there might need to be a little bit of back and forth. And it isn't necessarily because you don't not trust your team. It's just what has been created. Cultures in our company are going to be created, whether we're intentional about it or not. And so in some of those cases, it just has been created that way. And it will take a little bit of time to shift it, but it's worth it. It's certainly worth it. I don't think we really need to belabor the reasons why we should be trusting more and empowering more.
I'll give another example of that, like a technical thing. If you've got too many emails in your inbox where you're just simply CC'd in by your staff because that's what you've asked them and that's the feeling that they get, that they have to do that, then you're stuck trying to clear out your inbox. And you probably ain't going to end up missing the one or two critical emails that you do actually need to address. right? Instead of doing things like that, you could make the transition. People that are using like co-construct, build-a-trend, job-tread, making sure all your clients and teams correspondence is through that software. You don't need to be copied in there, but it's there. So if something does go wrong, you can just jump in and have a look into that. And then when it comes to empowering people and holding them accountable, it's if you go into a project and there's no correspondence there, right? So that's your backstop. You go, look, you're not doing this the right way. There is a process here. You need to put all the correspondence through there. And same applies to clients. Your clients aren't sending you texts and Instagram DMs and all this bit. Like, you're just like, no, go into this is our portal and we'd like you to communicate that.
Hey, it's Todd here, and we have a couple of free resources that we want to get in your hands. First is our free training video, Get Out of Your Construction Business, How to Make It Run Without You This Year. Here's what you're going to get when you sign up for this free training video. You'll learn about the JETS thinking trap, which stands for just enough to start. That's probably keeping you stuck working in your business, and it keeps you stuck in firefighting mode, and it affects probably 90% of construction businesses. You'll also learn about the first few crucial steps you want to take if you want to spend more time working on your business instead of being stuck working in it. And you'll learn what nailing the handoff looks like and how it will help you eliminate 80% of your preventable schedule delays and profit bleeds. You can get your hands on that free video over at constructionleadingedge.com/get out. constructionleadingedge.com/GETOUT. And the second thing is a question. Here's a question. Is your business structured for success, or is it designed for failure? We found a study and found that there are 5 root causes of contractor failure, 5 primary reasons that successful contractors self-destruct. All right. This is information that we feel like every construction business owner should know about. You should know about it for 2 reasons. If you're a general contractor, 1, you need to find out if your business is structured for success. And if you're a general contractor and you have subcontractors, you may want to ask this question: are your subs structured for success or structured for failure? And if you would like to evaluate your business to see if it's designed for success, the next step is to apply for a business evaluation call with my team. We'll go through these 5 root causes of failure, evaluate your business, and then give you some pointers. Highlight the red flags, the early indicators that you may want to focus your energy on. And if it makes sense, we can talk through the details of our Systematize Your Construction Business program that will ensure it is structured for success. If you would like to schedule your free business evaluation, go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or simply go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button. Now, let's get back to the episode. So let's talk about some practical tips to be able to empower people. Let's talk about some of the foundational pieces to this. One that I think is important is to understand that delegation is not binary. It's not either I do it all or they do it all. It's not 0 to 1, but there are 5 levels of delegation. And the first level of delegation is go do what I say, and then report back to me. The second level of delegation is here's a problem, go assess the problem, come back to me with solutions, and I'll tell you what to do. Level 3 is here's a problem, go come up with solutions, bring a recommendation to me, and then we'll agree on what to do. Level 4 delegation is here's a problem, go solve it, tell me what you did after it's over with. And level 5 is complete autonomy. Don't even talk to me about it. Just take care of it. And your job as a leader is to understand how to match the task and the person to the level of delegation. Is this a level 1 delegation? Is it level 4? And your job is to constantly move people on your team up to the next level, from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to complete autonomy. But you do that progressively. And Monish, like you said, you got to give it. It's like trust is a currency. You have to extend a little bit first to see what they do with it. But you have to start by extending a little bit of trust. So I believe a foundational piece is understanding the 5 levels levels of delegation. Leyah, what would you say are some of the foundational pieces to begin empowering your team?
We talk about this a lot, but I really do think it's important to clearly define roles and accountability. That's the accountability chart. And that's at the core of all of this. Until you know exactly who's responsible for what on your team, you're responsible for everything, right? And then a lot of that gets blurred. There's a lot of gray area when people don't know exactly what it is that they are accountable for. And so clearly defining that, understanding which roles you need in your business and what that role is accountable for, and then being able to clearly communicate that to your team is essential. Without that, again, I think, it's always going to fall back on you.
And that's a core piece of our Systematize Your Construction Business program is the strategic blueprint, which a big part of that is the accountability chart. Clearly define roles and responsibilities and how they tie into each other so that everybody knows who is accountable for what. Yeah, absolutely. Monish, what do you think? What is a foundational piece that has to be in place in order to begin empowering your team?
I think separating the personality or the character of the individual with their technical skills and abilities and going, all right, am I not trusting this guy because he's a shady character? Or am I not able to trust this guy because he keeps asking me how to frame a wall? He doesn't know how to drive my excavator and all that sort of stuff, right? And when you separate the two and you go, all right, I've hired the right character. This is good. You can teach anyone anything, right? So you go, right, do you actually want to learn how to drive an excavator? Would you like to learn how to build a wall without me being there breathing down your neck and telling you exactly what length to cut something and how to shoot it together, etc. Right? And then going, right, how can we get this individual trained up? What's available out there? Then there might be trade courses or whatever that this person can do so that like the character's there and then the technical skills build up to a level where you're like, all right, I can now delegate one task to this guy completely. And I know that he's capable of delivering. It may not be a 10 out of 10 to begin with, but I know that he's going to work his way up. 7 out of 10 currently, but he's going to get better. He's going to get better. And the most important thing is there, you're no longer stuck either doing it or having to supervise that individual doing it, right? So it takes you out. And sometimes training might just be provided by yourself directly, but it's important to figure out what the gap is. Because if you keep telling someone what to do every step of the way, you're going to continue having to do that. Sort of like, you teach a man to fish, he can just feed himself. The same principle.
And I think another powerful concept of empowered execution, it's a mindset shift from micromanaging, which is I will tell you what to do and I will conceal the why from you. That's what micromanagers do. It's like, just do what I say. You don't need to see the big picture. And they intentionally or unintentionally conceal the why. Empowered execution is being very clear on the why. Hey, this is why we're doing this. This is the purpose. This is why we exist. Also clearly articulating the what needs to happen. What's the desired end result that we're trying to accomplish? And then leaving the how up to your team with some parameters. That's a fundamental mindset shift. So stop spending so much energy on telling people how to do their job step by step. Spend more energy telling them why they're going to do something and clearly articulating the end result, and then watch what happens. And if you have the right people, then it works really well. We've touched on a few of these, but let's talk about what are some of the positive ripple effects that we've seen with our clients and in our personal experience of when people are empowered. So, Leyah, what does it do for your team?
I think it creates innovation and efficiency. When someone's empowered, all the things that you just talked about, you're telling them exactly what it is, what's the end goal, and then you're saying, go do it. Consider that. How much more innovative can people be if they get to be creative in how they reach that end goal versus you just telling them, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. Now, that doesn't mean that takes the place of a process, right? Those are really important in business. We talk about this all the time. But if someone feels empowered, they may have the innovation and their creativity to say, hey, have we thought about this with our process? Or could we go about it this way? You're going to foster that within your culture and things become more efficient, typically with good innovation as well.
A big part of our program in Systematize Your Construction Business is the Nail the Handoff session. And what I've heard from our clients is that they've been blown away by some of the ideas and some of the innovation that their team has brought to them as part of that. Monish, you can answer this first, and then Leyah, I'm curious how you would answer this, but what have some of our clients experienced? What have they seen from their team when going through the process of designing their Nail the Handoff process?
They're pleasantly surprised, and the team brought more to the table than they thought that they had assumed the team would. Turns out, quite often, the business owner is the problem, and they've turned themselves into a bottleneck. And sometimes there's also Michael Thorpe, who's been on the podcast before, one of our clients. So he found out while doing that he trusted his upper management, but the rest of the team, and didn't really bother getting their perspectives. He found out he wanted to improve efficiency and profitability, and turns out his main construction manager or operations manager was quite toxic and had created this situation for himself where he was in an important position. He wasn't feeding knowledge further down the line, and just had a nice cushy position set up for himself. And when Michael found out feedback from the rest of the team, he actually let this individual go, reduced his overheads substantially, and then he opened up that process of trust to the rest of his team. And then his lead carpenters or supervisors are now willingly doing more within their roles, and simply because they're being trusted to do that instead of one individual being responsible. His jobs have gone from 4 months down to 3 months on average. And obviously he's seeing a lot more profit because he's got reduced overheads as well. And when and if things slow down, that level of efficiency makes him more competitive, because he could drop his margin if he needed to and still do quite well. So it's had a pretty big trickle effect. And, the reason I brought that story up is sometimes it may not be you that has that issue with trust. It's important to find out from each and every one of your team members, is there someone that can't be trusted.
You could be the bottleneck as the owner, but there could be other bottlenecks, people who are bureaucrats, who are controlling, who are all about protecting their own position and not empowering their team. And I think that those people become glaringly obvious. They stick out like sore thumbs once you start, at least for our clients who've gone through this process. Those people who are a bad culture fit, they stick out like sore thumbs, and in many cases leave on their own, or they becomes obvious they need to go. Leyah, what have you seen as our clients have gone through the Nail the Handoff process? What have they been pleasantly surprised by with how their team has responded?
We actually had a couple of clients recently. They're wrapping up the program now. And when they came in and were approaching Nail the Handoff, both of them said, we already have a pretty solid process in place. It's going to be pretty easy. I don't think there's a whole lot we can do here. Came back very pleasantly surprised that there were still some gaps in the process that they just didn't know about because they hadn't heard. And in fact, in some cases, they were like, why haven't these guys told us this? But it created a platform for that open communication. It created a platform for their team to be innovative together, which I think there's also something about that energy of pulling a team together and saying, what do you guys think? What can we create together? So it was really cool to be able to hear how that process went for them and how they're creating an even more solid process. And in one case, they actually created a new position because they realized they needed it to make their business work as efficient as they needed it to be. And they didn't know that until they opened that up for their team. And I think this is actually a really cool part about our program in Nail the Handoff is you have to extend trust to your team to say, hey, guys and gals, what do we need to do to make the best process for us? So it's not yours. It's turning it over to your team. And that is a pretty big extension of trust. In some cases, maybe the first time that some of our clients have done that with their team. And almost always every time, I don't think I've ever heard a negative outcome from any of these Nail the Handoff processes with their clients. They're always very, very pleasantly surprised with the outcome.
If you're listening to this wondering, how do I extend trust to my team? What's the first step? A great way to do that is to start asking them some questions. Hey, where's the bottleneck? Hey, where are the problems? What's making your job difficult? Where's the friction? Start by asking some questions. That's a great first step for extending trust. That's great. So a lot of the people listening are narcissists. They're like, screw my team, forget about my clients. What about me? What's in it for me to empower the team? Now, I'm sure very few people would have listened this far if that's the case. But what are some of the ripple effects of empowering a team for the business owner? What have you guys seen once they've gone through this process and of extending trust, putting the right systems in place, delegating effectively? Leyah, what have you seen with some of your clients when they've done this work?
Oh my goodness, so many things. I hear comments like, I actually sleep through the night now. I have time to spend with my family. I've picked up a hobby, or I've returned to a hobby that I haven't done in years because I have the time available to do this. There's so many ripple effects that tend to enhance business owners and their employees' lives significantly because they offload a lot of this. They trust their team and they say, hey, I hired you for a reason. I trust you to do this. Go do it. And it offloads so much for them. Reduced stress, literal health is enhanced and made so much better because of this. It's just so very fulfilling, I'm sure, for all three of us to hear the results that our clients get, and especially on a personal level. That's when it's really hits home for me, is when I know that they've changed their lives because they've been able to do these things and empower their team as well.
Absolutely. Monish, what about you? What are some of the ripple effects, maybe some surprising side effects that folks that you've worked with have experienced from empowering their team?
In our CEO Alliance program, we obviously have groups of people that go through everything together. And again, kind of looking at the trust that they have with each other as part of the CEO Alliance is we have guys presenting their back end, their books to the rest of the group, to other business owners, and going, this is my revenue, this is my projected net profit, this is where I'm failing, this is where I need help, and stuff like that, and trusting the other people to, withhold their judgment, but actually provide expertise and help. And I've seen people's numbers on their bottom line improve dramatically. Some of our clients, like being almost at the brink of bankruptcy, to now making record profits from just turning that around. There's a lot of trust in that, because when you're being that vulnerable to people, where you're showing them, hey, I'm not doing well, like I'm losing a lot of money and I don't know what to do. Can someone help? Like, you're trusting whoever you're presenting it to actually help you, instead of, laughing at your ability. That's been actually quite pleasant. And then that's turned into our members having little challenges amongst themselves, or little bets amongst themselves, and leveraging that they might shave an eyebrow if they don't get their stuff done or they don't delegate. That's been a pretty cool aspect to see, and learning from other business owners. And we've had guys that are well into their 60s that are completely changing how they do business because they're learning from millennials, as you call it, and people doing better. But, just going, all right, let's try this out because I can see that it's working for you. So I'm going to do it as well. It's probably going to work for you too. So they've been pretty positive effects. Obviously, just being objective, when you run a business, you want the books to go well. Like, the point of a business is to make profit, right? Like, you're not running a charity unless you are running a charity. And then looking at it and going, all right, the business isn't my life. It's a part of my life, and planning for it accordingly. So if you want the business to be a part of your life, you have to trust the other people who are a part of that business, because the business is also a part of the life of your employees.
If you're interested in hearing from some of our clients, you can go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and there's a results tab, and you can hear from some of our clients who've gone through this process and they've empowered their teams, and you can hear what's different for them. And then there are quite a few other people, quite a few of our clients who have been interviewed on the podcast as well. You can just scroll through and listen to some interviews and go in depth on what's different for them. Leyah, Monish, their results are due in large part to the work you guys have done. So I appreciate, on behalf of all of our clients, thank you for the work that you've done. and the impact you've had on folks. It's really exciting. That's one thing that really gets me excited. I'm not a very excitable guy, but results, seeing results, hearing people talk about how their lives are different, how they're able to travel now, and how they're making surreal money, and they can go away for weeks at a time, and they're contemplating 2-month-long mission trips, and they're buying the homes that they've always wanted and making plans for beach house purchases. That's what excites me. And so I appreciate the work you guys are doing, and I appreciate you being on here and taking the time to share. It's been fantastic.
My pleasure.
I think it's the simple things for me, and people are like, I used to be so snowed under with my business that I'd come home and I'd just be a zombie. But now I come home, we have dinner as a family. I actually listen to what my wife and children are telling me about their days, etc. It's such a big deal. The compounding effect of that on that family is going to be huge.
All right. Great stuff, guys. Thanks. If you're listening and you're wondering how we can help you, or if we might be able to help you, stick around and you'll hear some details on how you can schedule a call with us and what that might look like. So we'll see you next time. Hey, it's Todd here. And one more thing before you go. Look, if you own a construction business and you want to put the right systems in place so you can either scale it up, maybe you want to step away from it, be able to take a proper vacation, maybe you want to sell it someday, maybe you just want to have more freedom, or maybe make it more profitable, or maybe you just want to get out of constant firefighting mode and make your phone stop ringing all the time. You really have 3 options if you want to make a meaningful change in your business. Option 1 is do nothing. Status quo, keep doing the same things, getting the same results. Option 2, you can DIY it. You can do it yourself. You can reinvent the wheel. You can read books, listen to podcasts, try to piece together a solution, use trial and error. Or option number 3, if you want meaningful change, is to find a proven system that delivers the results you're looking for. Sort of like if you use software for project management or for your bookkeeping, I assume you probably didn't try to code your own software. You found a proven system that delivered the results you're looking for, right? Well, if you're looking for a proven system to systematize your business, we've helped hundreds of construction business owners implement our systems in their business, specifically our nail the handoff pre-construction process in their business. It works for home builders, remodelers, commercial general contractors. It also works really well for trade contractors like electricians, concrete contractors, site, utility, plumbing. And it's part of our Systematize Your Construction Business program. So if you want to see what systematizing your business looks like, what nailing the handoff looks like, and the positive side effects that come with that, then the next step would be to schedule a free business evaluation call with my team. And you could do that by going to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, or just go to our website, constructionleadingedge.com, and tap the Apply Now button. You'll learn about the 5-step process we've helped hundreds of people implement to systematize their construction business. Most importantly, you'll get an objective third-party evaluation of your business to answer one really big question. Is your business designed to fail, or is it designed to succeed? So let me ask you this. If your business was unintentionally designed to fail, when would you rather find out? Now, while there's time to do something about it, or later on when it's maybe too late? This business evaluation call is totally free. There are no strings attached, no pressure. And it could be the best hour you've spent working on your business in a long time. So our schedule fills up pretty quickly. So if you're interested, go over to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, or go to constructionleadingedge.com and tap the Apply Now button to book your business evaluation call. Hey, thanks for listening. I hope you got value out of this podcast. If you could take a moment, if you did, and leave a rating or a review, or share this with somebody who needs to hear it, I would appreciate it. Todd Dawalt from Construction Leading Edge. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.